Hey everyone, Samia Khan here with your Fox 10 News Now update. Hope you are having a lovely Wednesday afternoon. We have a lot of news happening right now. Actually, there's this press conference that's been going on for almost a half an hour now out of the state of Washington. It was one of those controversial decisions. Basically, today they were going to announce whether charges were going to be filed against this officer who shot a couple of suspects back in May, I believe. Officer Donald specifically. Let me go ahead and see if I can get some more information for you. 1 second. So basically, it was just whether the shooting was justified, his use of force, the ongoing discussion that we seem to be having throughout the country in regards to various shootings. The officer was Officer Ryan Donald. He shot two stepbrothers on May 21st, and basically the Thurston County prosecutor was expected to announce whether charges would be filed or not, and he went step by step detailing all the evidence that was shown. And just about a minute or two ago, he officially announced that Officer Donald was acting in good faith in that shooting, and the shooting itself was justified. Right now, he is still live. Let's go ahead and listen in on what is being said. Hopefully, we'll have the full press conference a little later on.
Just over 3 minutes. So this is a rapidly unfolding scene. As Officer Donald described this, Mr. Thompson and Mr. Chaplin were actually both approaching him at the point where he elected to open fire on Mr. Chaplin. He focused on Mr. Chaplin first, he indicated, because he was closest and he was the most prominent threat because he had the skateboard. But very soon after that, after Mr. Chaplin had dropped to the ground and Mr. Thompson had momentarily attended to him, Officer Donald describes that Mr. Thompson became very enraged and began advancing on him immediately at a relatively close proximity. Less lethal use of force devices, such as a taser, are really designed to be used when there is some distance between the officer and the subject, and at that point would have required, in my view, Officer Donald to shift from his handgun to his taser, which I don't believe he had reasonable time to do. The other factor here is that Officer Donald describes very specifically that Mr. Thompson seemed to be focused on, his attention was focused on the officer's handgun. And the officer was very concerned at that point that Mr. Thompson would be attempting to incapacitate him and or remove his handgun, take control of his handgun from him. Now, Officer Donald indicated he waited as long as he felt he possibly could, giving commands during that time for Mr. Thompson to stop. But when he didn't, and they were actually in very close proximity when those shots were fired, Officer Donald indicated that his primary fear was that his handgun could be taken away from him and used against him, and I find that that was reasonable under the circumstances.
So you didn't determine if there was any opportunity for Officer Donald to de-escalate the situation between the first shooting and the later sets of shootings?
That's not really my review, is whether there's an opportunity to de-escalate. My review is about whether there was a good faith fear and a lack of malice, as I've said, a lack of malice on the part of the officer. Yes. You know, my hope is that there is not. I've lived in this community for a number of years now. I think Olympia and Thurston County is a community that has a lot of investment in the issues that are involved in this case. Issues around social justice, use of force, proper policing, all of those things. I think those are strong interests of the community. But on the other hand, I believe the community is very thoughtful and believes in the appropriateness of peacefully expressing opinions and voices in order to make change. I really hope that's the route that they choose to take. There's no finding on my part that race was a factor in this, other than I would say that it was initially part of the description that was given, and so Officer Donald obviously considered that in determining whether he had reasonable suspicion to make contact with these two young men.
Chris Bennett from the Seattle Medium, featuring radio station. Now, our information is that the community was indeed outraged at this shooting of these two young men in the back. And of course, this time, they are alive to tell their story. And their story is contrary to what we are hearing from the investigators report. My question to you, sir, is, were the young man who was shot 5 times, I believe, in the back, was he backing toward the officers or running away from them? If he was backing, I can understand. Toward them, I can understand how he gets shot. And the one that was shot slightly on his heart, he was shot from the front. Is that correct?
Yes, and let me correct a couple of the things that you've said in terms of the version of events that you've given. Now, you came in after I had done my kind of factual summary of the case.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I couldn't see all of it. It was kind of difficult to find this press conference.
Yes.
In one of the urban areas.
Yes. So I said earlier, I did not find any evidence that, in fact, either of these two individuals were shot in the back. There is no injury that would be consistent with that. The injury to the back, there were two injuries to the back that, when examined by medical personnel, were determined to, and the term I used was communicate. That's the term that the medical professionals used. They communicated with each other, meaning one was entrance, one was exit. So a bullet penetrated from the side, traveled a short distance along Mr. Chaplin's backside, and then exited out again his backside. My conclusion from that is that at that point, when the shot was fired, he had his side to the weapon. Now, where that occurred, I can't determine. The evidence doesn't help me determine that. That could have been inflicted during the incident behind the patrol car. It could have been inflicted if Mr. Chaplin's reaction to the gunfire was to turn away from the weapon. But either way, I'm convinced that he did not have his back to the officer when the shots were fired. I've got a question over here. I concluded that Mr. Chaplin, in fact, was armed, that the skateboard, in the way that it was used, would be considered a deadly weapon under Washington law. Excuse me, I need to go to the gentleman here.
Did you treat this investigation any differently, given the sensitive nature, given the violence that followed the original incident, or did you treat this exactly the same as you would any other case like this?
Our process really was very much the same. Because, and I'll say this very definitively, we take every deadly use of force by an officer seriously. And we've reviewed several over the years, and several of which have actually resulted in death. So they've been looked at as homicide reviews. And every one of those, there's an incredibly detailed investigation that's conducted, and we take a considerable amount of time to go through that and to weigh the evidence. So I feel like this case was treated exactly the same, but I say that putting an emphasis on the fact that that means we did as thorough of a review as we could do with the evidence that we had. Yes, sir, in the back.
You mentioned at the beginning this is a complex case, but you know people at home know this as another case of a white officer shooting 2 black men who do not have handguns on them, started the shoplifting. How do you cut through all of that and explain to folks at home why this officer is justified?
Yes, that's a great question. So this is the start of that. My giving you the explanation, as well as giving you all the memorandum that I've issued that does the detailed analysis. My hope is that this community will take the time to really learn the facts and the evidence of this event, and to be able to look at it with the same kind of eye that I looked at it with, and the same evidence that I looked at. Now, maybe they'll agree with my conclusion and maybe they won't. But all I can do is to try to be as transparent as possible about what my view of the facts were and why I reached the decision that I reached. And it'll be up to the community to debate whether that was appropriate or not. And so my goal at this point now is to be as I said, transparent as possible to allow people to make their own reasoned judgment about what happened.
But it sounds like what you're also saying is that generally and specifically in this case, an unarmed person can be justifiably shot by the police.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are, as long as the officer, as I said, genuinely feels that there is an imminent threat of substantial bodily injury and is acting without malice. I think it's fair for me to say that if you put yourselves in the place of a police officer who's on the street in a situation like this, in the middle of the night when it's dark, facing two individuals, regardless of race, but two individuals, and then is immediately physically, gets in a physical altercation with the skateboard the way that it was used, an officer, a police officer, really cannot afford to lose that fight, to just put it bluntly. Because officers are armed, and I talk about this in my memo, because officers are armed, they cannot afford to lose a fight and lose control of their own weapon, and they cannot risk allowing themselves to become vulnerable to serious bodily injury or even being killed. Now in this case, I really do take issue with the phrase unarmed, because the skateboard, as it was used in this case, I think, was very much a deadly weapon. And if, in fact, Officer Donald had not taken the action that he did on the first incident behind the patrol car, I believe he was at serious risk of being seriously injured because that skateboard could have struck him in a way to render him incapacitated, unconscious, or something of that nature, and then he becomes vulnerable to whatever might happen next.
But Officer Donald could have waited for backup before confronting the two men, right?
I guess he could have. That speculation to say that he could have waited. Again, that's not really relevant to my consideration because I'm focused only on what was happening at the moment that he made the decision to use deadly force. And I want to emphasize again, whether he followed department policy and procedure, that is for a different time and place, and that is not something that is within my jurisdiction, if you will.
I have one final question for you, sir. Has the governor, since this happened in his backyard, has he been briefed on this, and are you required to have permits to carry skateboards as well?
Okay, so your question is whether you need a permit to carry a skateboard?
My first question was, has the governor been briefed, since this happened in his back door, been briefed on this proceeding, your decision, and are skateboards in Thurston County, people who carry are required to have them registered as well?
The answer to your question is no. I have not personally talked to Governor Inslee on this, and frankly, the governor rarely, if ever, gets briefed on officer-involved shootings. And I can't speak beyond that because I don't work in the governor's office. But I have not talked personally to the governor about this, and if I'm invited to do so, I'd be happy to do so. Gun is not the only kind of weapon. Under Washington law, and this is explained in my memorandum, under Washington law, whether something is defined as a deadly weapon is defined by not what it is, but how it's used. And in this instance, I believe that the way the skateboard was used did render it a deadly weapon. I thought there was one more question.
All right, guys, it looks like we're having some technical difficulties. So in the meantime, I'm going to bring you these live images on Sat 5. Oh, there we go. Never mind. Disregard.
You know, I didn't detect anything in his statement that gave me the inference or concern that that was racially based. I took that as a description of what he was observing in terms of the manner of this person and just the demeanor as he began to approach him. Right? Thank you, everybody. Ann's going to wrap this up, and she'll talk a little bit more about if there's any requests for individual interviews. Thank you.
So thank you all for coming. I do have packets of information here with the memo that was given to Sheriff Snaza, the charging paper.
All right, guys, now we are getting a live look at some of the search area for the cop killers, alleged cop killers. 3 men, described only as 2 white men and 1 black man, were being chased by a Fox Lake officer yesterday before that cop was shot and killed. Now the search is on for that, or those suspects rather. I'm going to go ahead and put up a lower third. All right, guys, just to recap what happened yesterday, for those of you who did not tune in yesterday, maybe don't know this story so far. Again, an officer was chasing 3 individuals. He was then shot and killed. I'm going to read you some new information courtesy of Fox News. Apparently, there is dramatic audio that reveals the tense moments when the Illinois police officers discovered the body of a fellow cop lying in a marsh on Tuesday morning, stripped of his gun. So awful. Apparently in this audio, an unidentified police officer says, "Send everybody you possibly can. Officer is down." Now police are appealing to the public for help as they widen the perimeter in the search for the killers of 30-year veteran Joe Glinowitz, who was 52 years old at the time he was shot. Glinowitz is also a father of 4. Right now, it is somewhat difficult to find these individuals because we don't have a lot of specifics as to who exactly authorities are looking for. We do know, however, that they were just described as 2 white males and 1 black male. Again, this shooting occurred yesterday around 8 a.m. Illinois time, so about 6 a.m. here in Arizona yesterday. Glinowitz had radioed in to tell dispatchers he was chasing 3 men on foot in Fox Lake. And then the officer did not make contact with the individuals as a result of a 911 call or anything. He just happened to self-respond. And it is just a really sad situation. Apparently, he was shot in a marshy area near U.S. Highway 12, which is a main road through the village of Fox Lake, which... Again, Fox Lake, only about 10,000 people there near the Wisconsin border, just about 55 miles northwest of Chicago. Really, it's just a sad situation. That officer was pronounced dead at the scene. We do not know right now, and rather police have not told us at this moment, whether the officer was shot with his own gun or not, if a weapon or another weapon was involved, whether any video of the encounter had been captured on a dash cam or from anywhere else, and if there were any witnesses. We don't have any of that information right now. I know that there are some preliminary discussions about offering a reward in this case. However, nothing has been finalized. All right. I want to continue to give you more information on this issue. Again, officers are continuing the search. You guys are just looking at live images right now of one of the search areas. As you know, people are searching far and wide. FBI is involved. This issue is being taken very, very seriously. Right now, I don't have many details as to why we're outside this home, who that individual is. Again, these are just live images, and we know they are in connection with the search for the wanted cop killers. As we watched yesterday afternoon, an intense manhunt was underway. Over 400 police officers and federal agents participated in yesterday's 14-hour intensive manhunt that even included 45 canines and 6 aircraft searching a 2-mile radius. Schools in this area were closed yesterday. They remain closed today due to the search. And it's possible that these suspects aren't even in this area of Fox Lake. I believe I saw something earlier where, individuals, officials were speculating that they could have possibly already left the state. So it's very difficult in this situation because, we don't have a lot to go off of. We know there was 2 white men, 1 black man, and that's really it as of right now in terms of what we know. This is the 3rd law enforcement fatality in the state of Illinois this year, and it's a sad story. All right, guys, we are breaking out of this. We have a live police chase out of Southern California. Don't have a lot of information right now. We are just getting this information in, so let's go ahead and listen in on what is going on.
Officers, very dangerous. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Oh! Look at that. There's people in that car. Looks like a kid. I do not hear anybody on Freak 6.
All right, guys, you can see he is running now. This is we just see the Habit Burger right there. I'm trying to figure out where in Southern California this is exactly, but we were watching the suspect who was wanted running on foot.
Westbound Grand, on foot.
Again, guys, we have a police chase going on. The individual is now running on foot. At first, they were following him in his vehicle. He's running. This is in Southern California. Again, these are live images courtesy of Fox in Los Angeles. Looks like he has run into some sort of dead end area. I don't know if he can actually go anywhere from there. Again, these are live images coming out of Los Angeles.
Okay, there come the officers. He went inside that building. Nope, you're too far. Nope. Never saw him come around the corner. He's inside that building. Into your business. Officers, he went, oh gosh. No, I appreciate it. He went inside that business. He's inside that building, guys. Just keep an eye on the building, John. I'm just going to read a street. I want to make sure we're on Indiana. Yep, we're on Indiana.
So the suspect we are looking for is a burglary suspect, I believe. Nope, just kidding. It's not. That was a tweet from Fox from earlier.
He went inside that building. He never came out.
Again, guys, we are watching as law enforcement is looking for this suspect. We watched as he was being chased on the road. He eventually got out of the car, started running on foot, and this is where we last saw him, in sort of this dead-end area. Right now you can see officials are looking for this individual. We will continue to monitor this out of Southern California.
Maybe he did make his way out of there and we just didn't see him. Yeah. How are we on fuel? We're doing the math right now. Give me 1 second. I got to talk to John. One hour, 20 minutes. 1 hour, 20 minutes.
No, Douglas Krantz, this is not the same guy in the storm drain, the chase that you saw earlier. This is a different chase out of Southern California. We were watching this individual as he was speeding away in his vehicle, got out of the vehicle, started running on foot. Don't know where he is. It is unclear right now what the suspect is wanted for. However, we know he was running on foot. We see law enforcement officials right there looking for him. Last we saw, he went somewhere right now, whatever you see on the screen to the right. He went in that direction, and that was the last time we saw him. Right now, don't have any additional information, but we're watching live images coming in from Southern California as law enforcement officials look for this wanted suspect.
right, just wait for these guys to clear this little. Whoop, 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 whoop. There he is.
All right, guys, you can see him running right there. We're getting live images of him running away. That is the same suspect we were watching earlier in the white shirt, tan pants. He is running fast. We will see if there are any law enforcement officials in the direction of where he is running. Again, these are live images. This chase taking place in the Los Angeles area. And there we go. He has surrendered. He is on the ground, hands behind his back, as an officer on a motorcycle and other officers drive up. 2 officers walk up to him. We have multiple officers working to apprehend the suspect.
Suspect in custody. I believe this is on Sepulveda.
Again, this happened in Southern California. I think what the pilot of the helicopter said, I believe he said it was on Sepulveda. So that could either be in West Los Angeles, near the airport perhaps, or even in the San Fernando Valley. It's unclear what part of Sepulveda that is as of this second, but we do know it is in Southern California, in the greater Los Angeles area.
Very exciting stuff. Copy all. All right, back to the hole. Yep. Back to the hole.
All right, guys, that is a wrap on that car chase turned foot chase, rather. Let's see where they're zooming in.
We're on our way back to.
I wonder if we can get an exact location where in Southern California this was. It's kind of hard to tell based on the aerials, but I do see tall buildings and lots of freeways. It's kind of difficult because it's so vague, but yeah, that is a wrap on this car chase turned foot chase, and we're going to go back to the live images where we are watching as officers come in and out looking for the 3 people involved in the shooting death of an officer in Illinois. Oops, it looks like we have lost that feed, and unclear why. I'm going to return to the screen. I don't know why we just lost all our feeds at the exact same time. That is odd. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're continuing to enjoy your Wednesday afternoon. That was really exciting to just watch right there. It happened so quickly, though, you know? Suddenly, we hear from the squawk box, there's a chase in Southern California. We go straight to it. The guy's in the car. We maybe catch him in the car for less than a minute before he hops out, runs on foot, and finally, eventually, after hiding, starts running again, and he is apprehended a short time later. You watch all of that unfold live here on Fox 10 News Now. We were also watching the search for the 3 individuals wanted in the fatal shooting of that Illinois officer. Again, we don't really have too many leads right now, but a lot of members of law enforcement are searching for any possible suspicious activity, encouraging the public, if they have any information, to help out. All right. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and share with you some other news stories, shall we? Let me see what I have in store for you. In my folder, I have lots ahead. I did not expect that to end that abruptly, but since I just mentioned the Manhunt, why don't we go ahead and watch this story from Jackie Ibanez on the Manhunt.
A massive manhunt continues for 3 people wanted in the deadly shooting of a police officer in northern Illinois. Lieutenant Charles Joseph Glinowich was shot and killed Tuesday morning shortly after radioing dispatchers that he was chasing a group of men who were acting suspiciously.
There are 3 suspects at large at this time. Again, described 2 male whites, 1 male black. And I don't have a further description.
An officer responding as backup found Glinowich's body, but his gun was missing. Police believe the murder suspects took off with a firearm and could be hiding in the wooded and marshy areas just south of downtown Fox Lake.
They searched our little garage, our garage in our house, because it was open. They went in there, and they just been up and down here, walking down with machine guns right here, flying the helicopters.
The tense situation leaving many residents feeling uneasy as authorities put local schools on lockdown and warn people to stay inside their homes.
I knew it was going to be safe because there's a lot of security guards and stuff at our school. All the people in the school had to go to the gym, and it was really hot in there.
As the investigation continues, people throughout the community are mourning Officer Glinowich, known to many as G.I. Joe. The father of 4 was a 30-year veteran of law enforcement.
He meant something to his community. He made it a better place. He felt comfortable.
It hits home in the hardest way.
Not only did Fox Lake lose a family member, I lost a very dear friend.
This is the 4th time in less than 2 weeks that a law enforcement officer in the U.S. has been killed while in uniform. Jackie Ibanez, Fox News.
I think we're adequately staffed. Our detectives and our evidence technicians are some of the best you're going to find. Putting a number on how many murders is, I can't put an exact number on it. It varies from year to year. We've roughly handled as many as 40 in a year to as few as a dozen.
When the lieutenant called in, did he make any every single home?
I believe that the search teams did a thorough job, but I know there have been a number of national incidents where suspects have cleverly escaped or hidden in place, so anything's possible. So we are still on our guard when we are going to some of these homes, but we're satisfied that the results of yesterday's search were extremely thorough. But as police officers,
do you know anything about that and why?
yeah, we're just doing now, it's called a secondary review of the crime scene itself. It's nothing more than that. Yesterday, we were fighting lighting conditions, and some of the conditions were getting pretty poor near the end of the day. That's just showing you the attention to detail that the evidence technicians are giving to this, and they're going out there and they're re-examining.
How much longer are you?
I'm not going to set a time limit on this. I have a murdered colleague, police officer, and we're not going to stop. Well, I can't speak for the officer again, but if you're driving down a roadway that's got nothing but open fields, possibly abandoned businesses, and you see 3 individuals there that have no reason for being there, it would be a fundamental police procedure to stop and at least question them as to why they're there. And again, tenacious, they're focused, energetic, and they know exactly what their mission is, and we're hoping for the best outcome of what we're doing. We've got officers coming in. We had officers yesterday coming in on their own time to offer assistance. I'm getting text messages from. I think we're adequately staffed.
All right, guys, now these are aerials from the search yesterday. As we know, there was an intensive manhunt, lasted 14 hours. In fact, these are some of the aerials. I just wanted to pull up some video because I know I asked you guys in the chat room what you thought was going to happen with this. Do you think the guys are going to get caught? What do you think is going to happen? And I'm going to read some of your comments, okay? Let's see. What's your take on all of this? Thinks the guys will get caught? Beverly Hooper saying, I sure hope so. I think it was because it was an officer. The hunt will be relentless. Frankie saying, I think it's just a matter of time before they get caught. Joe Foley thinks out of the 3 of them, one of them will accidentally let something slip about it, and that's how they will get caught. Joe Foley saying maybe drunk one day and accidentally blurt something out. Interesting take, Joe Foley. Hapalea, however, thinks they will not be caught unless they get more information. 2 males white and 1 male black is pretty broad in terms of a search. Absolutely. What if you were just 3 guys that are friends and 2 of you happen to be white and 1 happens to be black? Does that automatically make you a suspect? Well, not exactly, but we do have very limited information as of right now. However, police have not told us whether they have any video from anywhere of the suspects that are wanted. If there's any potential video out there any dash cam video. They're giving us little information right now, so maybe they're just using that information to aid in their search, and they don't want everyone to know what kind of information they have thus far, so it doesn't harm the search efforts. So yeah, you can see these aerials, the SWAT team right there. You got SWAT, you got FBI, law enforcement. I think more than 400 people involved in the search yesterday, and the search continues today. We don't have the live images anymore that we did have earlier, but if I get anything else in, I will show you. In the meantime, did you guys know that there were shots fired at an officer in Massachusetts? We actually have some aerials right here that I'm going to go ahead and pull up right now. This is out of Massachusetts. Those aerials, shots fired at a police cruiser. It's kind of crazy just how many officers are being targeted right now. Really unfortunate. Now, this is in the town of Millis, Massachusetts. They were being asked to shelter in place after someone shot at this police cruiser before the vehicle crashed and then caught fire. Not this police cruiser specifically. These are just aerials looking or of police responding to the incident. I believe in this situation as well, a manhunt is underway for the two individuals that shot at the police cruiser. We know that as of 3:30 Massachusetts time, a SWAT team had also been set up. So pretty crazy. So much crazy news. We know the suspect is still wanted. The suspect fled after shooting at the police cruiser. I'm going to see if I can find any more video, any images perhaps of the cruiser that caught fire. Alright guys, before I play some more long form content, there's one video that I wanted to share with you. When I read about it, it was very absurd. This story comes to us from Fox in New York. I think this specifically happens in New Jersey. Apparently 2 daycares making the kids fight, or 2 people making kids in daycare fight each other. Sounds crazy, but let's watch this story.
Reprehensible thing I've ever heard.
They should probably get some time.
Prison time, you think? Some type of jail time?
Punishment, yeah.
Parents and grandparents are sickened by what 2 former daycare workers are accused of doing at Lightbridge Academy Daycare in Cranford, New Jersey. The Union County prosecutor says 22-year-old Erica Kenny and 28-year-old Shanice White forced 4-, 5-, and 6-year-old children to fight one another on the playground. They even called it a fight club. Vaughn Sinclair's son attends the daycare.
I was raging mad.
But he says the daycare put him at ease after explaining that the fighting occurred just once on August 13th, that his son was not involved, and that the 2 daycare workers were fired.
It's an isolated case. It's a one-off event. My son wasn't interacting with the persons that were involved.
Authorities say one of the daycare workers recorded the fighting and shared the video with several friends on Snapchat. The prosecutor's office has the video showing about a dozen boys and girls shoving each other to the ground and trying to hit one another. This mom, who did not want to show her face on camera, is upset, saying the daycare downplayed the incident to parents.
I'm shocked and disgusted because of course the school told us about it, but it wasn't like it is today, like how we're learning of it today.
Meanwhile, Lightbridge Daycare says the incident does not reflect its culture of its 18-year history.
I'm here to tell you that Lightbridge Academy fully supports the prosecutor's office and the actions that they have taken against these 2 former employees. And we are so thankful that none of the children have been hurt in this incident.
Yeah, so that is a very bizarre story. Daycare Fight Club. They even used the term Fight Club according to that report from a reporter out in Fox in New York. I'm going to read a couple of your comments. I'm assuming many of you at home are shocked to learn about this daycare fight situation. With police, okay, Daycare Flight Club, yes. Why isn't that daycare closed down? Billy Z. Cruisin'. It wasn't the daycare owners, it was 2 employees of that daycare, so you don't really think, you don't want to force something to shut down when the owner is not at fault here. Yes, the employees should be reprimanded, obviously lose their jobs, but should someone lose their business too? I think there are differing opinions on that. So that is that story. We're not getting any live images in, so I'm going to go ahead and play for you some of the video that I recorded earlier today for you. Let's see. I'm going to start with this one because it's a happy story, and I feel like for so much of this morning, it was just sad news, sad news, sad news. So we're going to start with this one. A homeless vet gets a home. This is an event that took place right here in Mesa, and it's really heartwarming. John McCain is present for it, and you will see interviews with the vet who got the home, with Senator McCain as well. It's a story that will touch your heart.
It's important to me to pay some respect to Senator McCain today. 30 years ago, this summer, I was a first-year law student at ASU, and I got what I thought was a great summer internship working for Congressman John McCain, doing constituent service work at his office, literally across the parking lot here over on Centennial Way. I spent that entire summer, I think, working on veterans issues. And that is a testament to Senator McCain. He brings a passion to this issue that is without peer in the Congress. So I think that planted a seed in me, Senator. That's the best thing that we can do as public servants, is pay respect to those who deserve it so much. So thank you for all that you've done. We knew that this challenge would be significant, and for that reason, we elevated it to the highest possible level that we could in our city government, and that's why I really appreciate Council Members Glover and Thompson taking the lead on this. I think that demonstrates that this is not a one-and-done approach to this. We understand that for this to be successful and for it to be meaningful, this needs to be a sustainable going forward from hereafter part of Mesa City government, and this has got to remain at the highest priority levels of Mesa City government. So I hope that's evident in the resources and in our commitment to this. And it's not just Mesa City government, obviously. This is our community partners that are so involved in this. Thank you. I think we also probably ought to point out that Phoenix has been doing this for a few years, and we were able to take advantage of a lot of work that had been done in the city of Phoenix in this regard. And I see a lot of the folks that are here today with us are veterans of getting this program up and running in Phoenix. So we owe them a debt of gratitude. Mr. Hutchison was identified at Paz de Cristo, and I had the privilege of going to Paz a month or so ago and being with Arlen. And as the folks filed through to get their plates, Arlen instructed me, you ask every single person that walks through here if they're a veteran. And if they are, you send them over to me at this table, and we're screening them for this program. So that, Arlen, thank you for being such a big part of this. Mr. Hutchison is our first success story, but obviously this is just the beginning. We hope that he is one of many, many people that we were able to help and to continue to help. Our help and admiration for Mr. Hutchison can't end today, or this will not be a successful program. But thank you for all that you've done.
All right. We also want to recognize, as the mayor said, it takes a lot of groups involved in this. I want to thank the city staff, was mentioned earlier, Natalie Lewis and those that are with her, helping her. We also want to recognize representatives from our Congressman's office, Congressman Salmon and Congressman Sinema, for their help too. So I think we're available to answer a few questions. Is there any questions that need to be asked or answered? If not, Larry, why don't we have you come forward? Why don't you come up here with the senator and the mayor? Let's get you with the councilman. Let's get your picture with them, okay? All right. Is that okay?
Please, yes. Harlan, everybody, please come up.
Natalie goes. Trying to stay in between the flags so you're in the picture there.
Shorts in front?
Yeah, tall in the back.
Wait, this way?
Always turn towards the side.
Thank you, everybody.
But it's permanent for you.
That's good. That's good. That's a blessing right there.
And I misunderstood you yesterday. I didn't know you had your V8 car.
I keep that.
It was a miscommunication. I apologize. I want you to come out of my office as soon as we're done here. So, I mean, that's awesome on your part. And I want to thank you for your service.
We appreciate your help. We really do, Marty. We appreciate it.
Oh, whoa.
Go ahead and stand right here.
I'm getting out of the way.
First of all, your thoughts. You know, it's one of those things where you got the senator out here, the Mesa mayor, really taking not only an active stance on this, but really being adamant that they want to see this come to an end. But you know firsthand that there's a lot of vets that are out there on the streets.
There's a whole lot of vets out on the street. A lot of vets still doing drugs to pass away, to get their mind away from what they went through. And it's really sad. I see a lot of them. I didn't witness a entire lot, you know. I can only say so much to them. But I've been clean and sober for 10 years, and I'm happy with myself. So, and this is just another blessing that came about. That's the way I feel about it.
What do you think it would take? I mean, obviously, you're one of the ones they got off, and a lot of it took a part of you being able to say, I need to do me first. What do you think it's going to take?
Well, like I explained, we live our lives in a counterclock manner. There's nothing we can do about the past, but we can do everything about the future. So we need to get ourselves into a clockwise position and thought and continue on. That's all I have to say about it. I mean, that's what I did. I put all my efforts forward. And still things went wrong, but you know, you still got to stand up for yourself and try to do the best that you can. That's my message that I send out to you.
And now at night, you're going to sleep a little more comfortably.
Hey, I'm going to sleep real good, and I had a beautiful sleep last night, so I can't complain about it. It's been fantastic.
Has it been? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's a huge difference, I imagine.
Big difference, big difference. I even made me some coffee at home this morning. But it's a big difference, and I feel good. And I thank everyone that was put a hand in this, especially the first guy I ever met. Where is he at? Arlen from Community Bridges. Not Community Bridges, Paz. Paz Crystal. I really thank him for it. I did over and over again.
Did you ever think it was going to happen?
Yes, I would have made it happen one time or another. I mean, you know, I don't make a huge amount of money a month, but I would have made it happen sooner or later, you know. It's just, I like the sound of more sooner than later. That's all I got to say.
Here's a sheet. Christopher will give you a sheet. There's a sheet right there. Here you go.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Natalie's the person in our office to make this work.
Here's like that, or you need a white. Thank you for your hard work. Please come right next to me. You good like that or not?
Are you ready, guys?
Yeah.
First of all, let me just say, I'm very pleased to be with the mayor and the city of Mesa as their honoring Mesa's heroes by providing our homeless veterans with the housing that is very badly needed. If we're going to address the issue of veteran suicide, veterans homelessness is one of the major issues. I'm proud of the mayor and the city council of Mesa that have made this the highest priority, and I'm very proud to be here with them today to celebrate the progress that has been made. Do you want to say?
Well, this, personally, for me, this all started 30 years ago when I worked a summer for Senator McCain as a young law student, and I spent the whole time working on veterans issues. Senator McCain is a national leader in showing respect for our veterans, and so we honor him today for setting the great example for local government to follow. His great example in providing compassion and respect for these folks that so richly deserve it.
You know, Senator, you a couple of weeks ago during the Marine Convention, you brought this up again. I mean, you mentioned how suicide and homelessness, they go hand in hand if they're depressed enough to, not finding a place to live. So how huge is a program like this?
If some veteran is living in the street, the chances of that veteran contemplating or actually committing suicide is dramatically increased. That's why I'm so proud of the city of Mesa and the mayor of Mesa who have made this their highest priority. There is no doubt about the connection between suicide and homelessness amongst veterans. Anything else, guys?
No,
all right. Thanks for coming. Good to see you.
Take one more than one.
All right, guys, so I thought I would share with you some happy information. One vet getting a home. Hope you enjoyed that, because now we're going to get serious. So John McCain, very publicly against Obama's Iran deal. However, not sure if you tuned into the news, but the Iran deal got its 34th signature necessary. And it was big news this morning. In fact, John Kerry was speaking about it. He was on all the networks. And I even have that video for you now. So listen in on what John Kerry has to say following the 34th signature of approval on the Iran deal.
That had already mastered the nuclear fuel cycle, already stockpiled enough enriched uranium that, if further enriched, could arm 10 to 12 bombs. And Iran that was already enriching uranium to the level of 20%, which is just below weapons grade, and Iran that had already installed 10,000 plus centrifuges, and an Iran that was moving rapidly to commission a heavy water reactor able to produce enough weapons grade plutonium for an additional bomb or two a year. That, my friends, is where we already were when we began our negotiations. At a well-remembered moment during the UN General Assembly the previous fall, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu had held up a cartoon of a bomb to show just how dangerous Iran's nuclear program had begun. And in 2013, he returned to that podium to warn that Iran was positioning itself, quote, to rush forward to build nuclear bombs before the international community can detect it and much less prevent it. The Prime Minister argued rightly that the so-called breakout time, the interval required for Iran to produce enough fissile material for one bomb, had dwindled to as little as 2 months, even though it would take significantly longer to actually build the bomb itself using that fissile material. The Prime Minister's message was clear. Iran had successfully transformed itself into a nuclear threshold state. In the Obama administration, we were well aware of that troubling fact. And more important, we were already responding to it. The record is irrefutable that over the course of 2 American administrations, it was the United States that led the world in assembling against Tehran one of the toughest international sanctions regimes ever developed. But we also have to face an obvious fact. Sanctions alone were not getting the job done, not even close. They were failing to slow, let alone halt, Iran's relentless march towards a nuclear weapons capability. So President Obama acted. He reaffirmed his vow that Iran would absolutely not be permitted to have a nuclear weapon. He marshaled support for this principle from every corner of the international community. He made clear his determination to go beyond what sanctions could accomplish and find a way to not only stop, but to throw into reverse Iran's rapid expansion of its nuclear program. As we developed our strategy, we cast a very wide net to enlist the broadest expertise available. We sat down with the IAEA and with our own intelligence community to ensure that the verification standards that we sought on paper would be effective in reality. We consulted with Congress and our international allies and friends. We examined carefully every step that we might take to close off each of Iran's potential pathways to a bomb. And of course, we were well aware that every proposal, every provision, every detail would have to withstand the most painstaking scrutiny. We knew that. And so we made clear from the outset that we would not settle for anything less than an agreement that was comprehensive, verifiable, effective, and of lasting duration. We began with an interim agreement reached in Geneva, the Joint Plan of Action. It accomplished diplomatically what sanctions alone could never have done or did. It halted the advance of Iran's nuclear activities. And it is critical to note, you don't hear much about it, but it's critical to note that for more than 19 months now, Iran has complied with every requirement of that plan. But this was just a first step. From that moment, we pushed ahead, seeking a broad and enduring agreement, sticking to our core positions, maintaining unity among a diverse negotiating group of partners. And we arrived at the good and effective deal that we had sought. And I ask you today and in the days ahead, as we have asked members of Congress over the course of these last months, consider the facts of what we achieved and judge for yourself the difference between where we were 2 years ago and where we are now and where we can be in the future. Without this agreement, Iran's so-called breakout time was about 2 months. With this agreement, it will increase by a factor of 6 to at least a year, and it will remain at that level for a decade or more. Without this agreement, Iran could double the number of its operating centrifuges almost overnight and continue expanding with ever more efficient designs. With this agreement, Iran's centrifuges will be reduced by 2/3 for 10 years. Without this agreement, Iran could continue expanding its stockpile of enriched uranium, which is now more than 12,000 kilograms, enough, if further enriched, for multiple bombs. With this agreement, that stockpile will shrink and shrink some more, a reduction of some 98% to no more than 300 kilograms for 15 years. Without this agreement, Iran's heavy water reactor at Arak would soon be able to produce enough weapons-grade plutonium each year to fuel 1 or 2 nuclear weapons. With this agreement, the core of that reactor will be removed and filled with concrete, and Iran will never be permitted to produce any weapons-grade plutonium. Without this agreement, the IAEA would not have assured access to undeclared locations in Iran where suspicious activities might be taking place. The agency could seek access, but if Iran objected, there would be no sure method for resolving a dispute in a finite period, which is exactly what has led us to where we are today. That's standoff. With this agreement, the IAEA can go wherever the evidence leads. No facility, declared or undeclared, will be off limits, and there is a time certain for assuring access. There is no other country to which such a requirement applies. This arrangement is both unprecedented and unique. In addition, the IAEA will have more inspectors working in Iran using modern technologies such as real-time enrichment monitoring, high-tech electronic seals, and cameras that are always watching 24/7, 365. Further, Iran has agreed never to pursue key technologies that would be necessary to develop a nuclear explosive device. So the agreement deals not only with the production of fissile material, but also with the critical issue of weaponization. Because of all of these limitations and guarantees, we can sum up by saying that without this agreement, the Iranians would have several potential pathways to a bomb. With it, they won't have any. Iran's plutonium pathway will be blocked because it won't have a reactor producing plutonium for a weapon, and it won't build any new heavy water reactors or engage in reprocessing for at least 15 years, and after that, we have the ability to watch and know precisely what they're doing. The uranium pathway will be blocked because of the deep reductions in Iran's uranium enrichment capacity, and because for 15 years the country will not enrich uranium to a level higher than 3.67%. Let me be clear. No one can build a bomb from a stockpile of 300 kilograms of uranium enriched only to 3.67%. It is just not possible. Finally, Iran's covert pathway to a bomb will also be blocked. Under our plan, there will be 24/7 monitoring of Iran's key nuclear facilities. As soon as we start the implementation, inspectors will be able to track Iran's uranium as it is mined, then milled, then turned into yellowcake, then into gas, and eventually into waste. This means that for a quarter of a century, at least, every activity throughout the nuclear fuel chain will receive added scrutiny. And for 20 years, the IAEA will be monitoring the production of key centrifuge components in Iran in order to assure that none are diverted to a covert program. So if Iran did decide to cheat, its technicians would have to do more than bury a processing facility deep beneath the ground. They would have to come up with a complete and completely secret nuclear supply chain, a secret source of uranium, a secret milling facility, a secret conversion facility, a secret enrichment facility. And our intelligence community and our energy department, which manages our nuclear program and our nuclear weapons, both agree Iran could never get away with such a deception. And if we have even a shadow of doubt that illegal activities are going on, either the IAEA will be given access required to uncover the truth, or Iran will be in violation and the nuclear-related sanctions can snap back into place. We will also have other options to ensure compliance if necessary. Given all of these requirements, it is no wonder that this plan has been endorsed by so many leading American scientists, experts on nuclear nonproliferation and others. More than 60 former top national security officials, more than 100 retired ambassadors, people who served under Democratic and Republican presidents alike, are backing the proposal, as are retired generals and admirals from all 5 of our uniformed services. Brent Scowcroft, one of the great names in American security endeavors of the last century and now served as a national security advisor to 2 Republican presidents. He is also among the many respected figures who are supporting it. Internationally, the agreement is being backed, with one exception, by each of the more than 100 countries that have taken a formal position. The agreement was also endorsed by the United Nations Security Council on a vote of 15-0. This not only says something very significant about the quality of the plan, particularly when you consider that 5 of those countries are permanent members and they're all nuclear powers, but it should also invite reflection from those who believe the United States can walk away from this without causing grave harm to our international reputation, to relationships, and to interests. You've probably heard the claim that because of our strength, because of the power of our banks, all we Americans have to do if Congress rejects this plan is return to the bargaining table, puff out our chests, and demand a better deal. I've heard one critic say he would use sanctions to give Iran a choice between having an economy or having a nuclear program. Well, folks, that's a very punchy soundbite, but it has no basis in any reality. As Dick said, I was chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee when our nation came together across party lines to enact round after round of economic sanctions against Iran. But remember, even the toughest restrictions didn't stop Iran's nuclear program from speeding ahead. From a couple of hundred centrifuges to 5,000 to 19,000. We've already been there. If this agreement is voted down, those who vote no will not be able to tell you how many centrifuges Iran will have next year or the year after. If it's approved, we will be able to tell you exactly what the limits on Iran's program will be. The fact is that it wasn't either sanctions or threats that actually stopped and finally stopped the expansion of Iran's nuclear activities. The sanctions brought people to the table, but it was the start of the negotiating process, and the negotiations themselves, recently concluded in Vienna, that actually stopped it. Only with those negotiations did Iran begin to get rid of its stockpile of 20% enriched uranium. Only with those negotiations did it stop installing more centrifuges and cease advancing the Iraq reactor. Only then did it commit to be more forthcoming about IAEA access and negotiate a special arrangement to break the deadlock. So just apply your common sense. What do you think will happen if we say to Iran now, hey, forget it. The deal is off. Let's go back to square one. How do you think our negotiating partners, all of whom have embraced this deal, will react? All of whom are prepared to go forward with it. How will they react? What do you think will happen to that multilateral sanctions regime that brought Iran to the bargaining table in the first place? The answer is pretty simple. The answer is straightforward. Not only will we lose the momentum that we have built up in pressing Iran to limit its nuclear activities, we will almost surely start moving in the opposite direction. We need to remember, sanctions don't just sting in one direction, my friends. They also impose costs on those who forego the commercial opportunities in order to abide by them. It's a tribute to President Obama's diplomacy, and before that, to President George W. Bush, that we were able to convince countries to accept economic difficulties and sacrifices and put together the comprehensive sanctions regime that we did. Many nations that would like to do business with Iran agreed to hold back because of the sanctions, and this is vital, and because they wanted to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. They have as much interest in it as we do. And that's why they hope the negotiations will succeed. And that's why they will join us in insisting that Iran live up to its obligations. But they will not join us if we unilaterally walk away from the very deal that the sanctions were designed to bring about. And they will not join us if we're demanding even greater sacrifices and threatening their businesses and banks because of a choice we made and they opposed. So while it may not happen all at once, it is clear that if we reject this plan, the multilateral sanctions regime will start to unravel. The pressure on Iran will lessen, and our negotiating leverage will diminish, if not disappear. Now, obviously, that is not the path, as some critics would have us believe, to a so-called better deal. It is a path to a much weaker position for the United States of America and to a much more dangerous Middle East. And this is by no means a partisan point of view that I just expressed. Henry Paulson was Secretary of Treasury under President George W. Bush. He helped design the early stages of the Iran sanctions regime. But just the other day, he said, quote, "It'd be totally unrealistic to believe that if we backed out of this deal, the multilateral sanctions would remain in place." And Paul Volcker, who chaired the Federal Reserve under President Reagan, said, quote, "This agreement is as good as you are going to get. To think that we can unilaterally maintain sanctions doesn't make any sense." We should pause for a minute to contemplate what voting down this agreement might mean for Iran's cadre of hardliners, for those people in Iran who lead the chants of death to America, death to Israel, and even death to Rouhani, and who prosecute journalists simply for doing their jobs. The evidence documents that among those who most fervently want this agreement to fall apart are the most extreme factions in Iran. And their opposition should tell you all you need to know. From the very beginning, these extremists have warned that negotiating with the United States would be a waste of time. Why on earth would we now take a step that proves them right? Let me be clear. Rejecting this agreement would not be sending a signal of resolve to Iran. It would be broadcasting a message so puzzling, most people across the globe would find it impossible to comprehend. After all, they've listened as we warned over and over again about the dangers of Iran's nuclear program. They've watched as we spent 2 years forging a broadly accepted agreement to rein that program in. They've nodded their heads in support as we've explained how the plan that we have developed will make the world safer. Who could fairly blame them for not understanding if we suddenly switch course and reject the very outcome we had worked so hard to obtain? And not by offering some new and a viable alternative, but by offering no alternative at all. It is hard to conceive of a quicker or more self-destructive blow to our nation's credibility and leadership, not only with respect to this one issue, but I'm telling you across the board, economically, politically, militarily, and even morally. We would pay an immeasurable price for this unilateral reversal. Friends, as Dick mentioned in his introduction, I have been in public service for many years, and I've been called on to make some difficult choices in that course of time. There are those who believe deciding whether or not to support the Iran agreement is just such a choice, and I respect that, and I respect them. But I also believe that because of the stringent limitations on Iran's program that are included in this agreement that I just described, because of where that program was headed before our negotiations began and will head again if we walk away, because of the utter absence of a viable alternative to this plan that we have devised, the benefits of this agreement far outweigh any potential drawbacks. Certainly, the goal of preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon is supported across our political spectrum, and it has the backing of countries on every continent. So what then explains the controversy that has persisted in this debate? A big part of the answer, I think, is that even before the ink on the agreement was dry, we started being bombarded by myths about what the agreement will and won't do, and that bombardment continues today. The first of these myths is that the deal is somehow based on trust, or a naive expectation that Iran is going to reverse course on many of the policies it's been pursuing internationally. Critics tell us over and over again, you can't trust Iran. Well, guess what? There is not a single sentence, not a single paragraph in this whole agreement that depends on promises or trust. Not one. The arrangement that we worked out with Tehran is based exclusively on verification and proof. That's why the agreement is structured the way it is. That's why sanctions relief is tied strictly to performance. And it is why we have formulated the most far-reaching monitoring and transparency regime ever negotiated. Those same critics point to the fact that 2 decades ago, the United States reached a nuclear framework with North Korea that didn't accomplish what it set out to do. And we're told we should have learned a lesson from that. Well, the truth is, we did learn a lesson. The agreement with North Korea was 4 pages and only dealt with plutonium. Our agreement with Iran runs 159 detailed pages, applies to all of Tehran's potential pathways to a bomb, and is specifically grounded in the transparency rules of the IAEA's additional protocol, which didn't even exist 2 decades ago when the North Korea deal was made, because it was developed specifically with the North Korea experience in mind. Lesson learned. The reality is that if we trusted Iran or thought that it was about to become more moderate, this agreement would be less necessary than it is. But we don't. We would like nothing more than to see Iran act differently. But not for a minute are we counting on it. Iran's support for terrorist groups and its contributions to sectarian violence are not recent policies. They reflect the perceptions of its leaders about Iran's long-term national interests, and there are no grounds for expecting those calculations to change in the near future. That is why we believe so strongly that every problem in the Middle East, every threat to Israel and to our friends in the region would be more dangerous if Iran were permitted to have a nuclear weapon. That is the inescapable bottom line. That's also why we're working so hard and so proactively to protect our interests and those of our allies. In part, because of the challenge posed by Iran, we have engaged in an unprecedented level of military, intelligence, and security cooperation with our friend and ally, Israel. We are determined to help our ally address new and complex security threats and to ensure its qualitative military edge. We work with Israel every day to enforce sanctions and prevent terrorist organizations such as Hamas and Hezbollah from obtaining the financing and the weapons that they seek, whether from Iran or from any other source. And we will stand with Israel to stop its adversaries from once again launching deadly and unprovoked attacks against the Israeli people. Since 2009, we have provided $20 billion in foreign military financing to Israel, more than half of what we have given to nations worldwide. Over and above that, we have invested some $3 billion in the production and deployment of Iron Dome batteries and other missile defense programs and systems, and we saw how in the last Gaza war, lives were saved in Israel because of it. We have given privileged access to advanced military equipment, such as the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter. Israel is the only nation in the Middle East to which the United States has sold this fifth-generation aircraft. The President recently authorized a massive arms resupply package featuring penetrating munitions and air-to-air missiles, and we hope soon to conclude a new memorandum of understanding, a military assistance plan that will guide our intensive security cooperation through the next decade. And diplomatically, our support for Israel also remains rock solid, as we continue to oppose every effort to delegitimize the Jewish state or to pass biased resolutions against it in international bodies. Now, I understand personally there is no way to overstate the concern in Israel about Iran and about the potential consequences that this agreement or rejecting this agreement might have on Israel's security. The fragility of Israel's position has been brought home to me on every one of the many trips I have made to that country. In fact, as Secretary of State, I have already traveled to Israel more than a dozen times, spending the equivalent of a full month there, even ordering my plane to land at Ben Gurion Airport when commercial air traffic had been halted during the last Gaza war, doing so specifically as a sign of support. Over the years, I have walked through Yad Vashem, a living memorial to the 6 million lost, and I have felt in my bones the unfathomable evil of the Holocaust and the undying reminder never to forget. I've climbed inside a shelter in Kiryat Shmone, where children were forced to leave their homes and classrooms to seek refuge from Katyusha rockets. I visited Sderot and witnessed the shredded remains of homemade missiles from Gaza, missiles fired with no other purpose than to sow fear in the hearts of Israeli families. I've piloted an Israeli jet out of Uvda Air Base and observed firsthand the tininess of Israel airspace, from which it is possible to see all of the country's neighbors at the same time. And I have bowed my head at the Western Wall and offered for the region and for the world. I take a back seat to no one in my commitment to the security of Israel, a commitment I demonstrated through my 28-plus years in the Senate. And as Secretary of State, I am fully conscious of the existential nature of the choice Israel must make. I understand the conviction that Israel, even more than any other country, simply cannot afford a mistake in defending its security. And while I respectfully disagree with Prime Minister Netanyahu about the benefits of the Iran agreement, I do not question for an instant the basis of his concern or that of any Israeli. But I am also convinced, as is President Obama, our senior defense and military leaders, and even many former Israeli military and intelligence officials, that this agreement puts us on the right path to prevent Iran from ever getting a nuclear weapon. The people of Israel will be safer with this deal, and the same is true for the people throughout the region. And to fully ensure that, we are also taking specific and far-reaching steps to coordinate with our friends from the Gulf states. President Obama hosted their leaders at Camp David earlier this year. I visited with them in Doha last month. And later this week, we will welcome King Salman of Saudi Arabia to Washington. Gulf leaders share our profound concerns about Iran's policies in the Middle East. But they're also alarmed by Iran's nuclear program. We must and we will respond on both fronts. We will make certain that Iran lives up to its commitments under the nuclear agreement, and we will continue strengthening our security partnerships. We're determined that our Gulf friends will have the political and the military support that they need, and to that end, we are working with them to develop a ballistic missile defense for the Arabian Peninsula, provide special operations training, authorize urgently required arms transfers, strengthen cybersecurity, engage in large-scale military exercises, and enhance maritime interdiction of illegal Iranian arms shipments. We are also deepening our cooperation and support in the fight against the threat posed to them, to us, and to all civilization by the forces of international terror, including their surrogates, and their proxies. Through these steps and others, we will maintain international pressure on Iran. United States sanctions imposed because of Tehran's support for terrorism and its human rights record, those will remain in place, as will our sanctions aimed at preventing the proliferation of ballistic missiles and transfer of conventional arms. The UN Security Council prohibitions on shipping weapons to Hezbollah, the Shiite militias in Iraq, the Houthi rebels in Yemen, all of those will remain as well. We will also continue to urge Tehran to provide information regarding an American who disappeared in Iran several years ago, and to release the U.S. citizens its government has unjustly imprisoned. We will do everything we can to see that our citizens are able to safely return to where they belong, at home and with their families. Have no doubt, the United States will oppose Iran's destabilizing policies with every national security tool available and disregard the myth. The Iran agreement is based on proof, not trust. And in a letter that I am sending to all the members of Congress today, I make clear the administration's willingness to work with them on legislation to address shared concerns about regional security consistent with the agreement that we have worked out with our international partners. This brings us to the second piece of fiction, that this deal would somehow legitimize Iran's pursuit of a nuclear weapon. I keep hearing this. Well, yes, for years, Iran has had a civilian nuclear program. Under the Non-Proliferation Treaty, you can do that. It was never a realistic option to change that. But recognizing this reality is not the same as legitimizing the pursuit of a nuclear weapon. In fact, this agreement does the exact opposite. Under IAEA safeguards, Iran is prohibited from ever pursuing a nuclear weapon. This is an important point, so I want to be sure that everyone understands. The international community is not telling Iran that it can't have a nuclear weapon for 15 years. We are telling Iran that it can't have a nuclear weapon, period. There is no magic moment, 15, 20, or 25 years from now, when Iran will suddenly get a pass from the mandates of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Doesn't happen. In fact, Iran is required by this agreement to sign up to and abide by the IAEA additional protocol that I mentioned earlier that came out of the North Korea experience. And that requires inspections of all nuclear facilities. What does this mean? It means that Iran's nuclear program will remain subject to regular inspections forever. Iran will have to provide access to all of its nuclear facilities forever. Iran will have to respond promptly to requests for access to any suspicious site forever. And if Iran at any time, embarks on nuclear activities that are incompatible with a wholly peaceful program, it will be in violation of the agreement forever. We will know of that violation right away, and we will retain every option we now have to respond, whether diplomatically or through a return to sanctions or by other means. In short, this agreement gives us unprecedented tools and all the time we need to hold Iran accountable for its choices and actions. Now, it's true, some of the special additional restrictions that we successfully negotiated, those begin to ease after a period, in some cases 10 or 15, in others 20 or 25. But it would defy logic to vote to kill the whole agreement with all of the permanent NPT restrictions by which Iran has to live for that reason. After all, if your house is on fire, if it's going up in flames, would you refuse to extinguish it because of the chance that it might be another fire in 15 years? Obviously not. You'd put out the fire and you'd take advantage of the extra time to prepare for the future. My friends, it just doesn't make sense to conclude that we should vote no now because of what might happen in 15 years, thereby guaranteeing that what might happen in 15 years will actually begin to happen now. Because if this agreement is rejected, every possible reason for worry in the future would have to be confronted now, immediately, in the months ahead. Once again and soon, Iran would begin advancing its nuclear program. We would lose the benefit of the agreement that contains all these restrictions, and it would give a green light to everything that we're trying to prevent. Needless to say, that is not the outcome that we want. It is not an outcome that would be good for our country, nor for our allies, or for the world. There's a third myth, quick one, a more technical one, that Iran could in fact get away with building a covert nuclear facility because the deal allows a maximum of 24 days to obtain access to a suspicious site. Well, in truth, there is no way in 24 days or 24 months, in 24 years, for that matter, to destroy all the evidence of illegal activity that has been taking place regarding fissile material. Because of the nature of fissile materials and their relevant precursors, you can't eliminate the evidence by shoving it under a mattress, flushing it down a toilet, carting it off in the middle of the night. The materials may go, but the telltale traces remain year after year after year. And the 24 days is the outside period of time during which they must allow access. Under the agreement, if there is a dispute over access to any location, the United States and our European allies have the votes to decide the issue. And once we have identified a site that raises questions, we will be watching it continuously until the inspectors are allowed in. Let me underscore that. The United States and the international community will be monitoring Iran nonstop. And you can bet that if we see something, we will do something. The agreement gives us a wide range of enforcement tools, and we will use them. And the standard we will apply can be summed up in 2 words: zero tolerance.
All right, guys, we're going to cut out of that now and go live to Illinois, where a vigil is being held in honor of the fallen officer who was shot and killed yesterday. As you know, the search is on for the 3 people involved in that fatal shooting. Really just a sad story, and I believe people will be speaking at this vigil, so we'll be carrying that live here on News Now.
Joe's summer boot camp. They competed in many events, testing their law enforcement skills that Joe would teach them. Throughout scouting events, these fine young men and women would help with parking details and crowd control, and did it with great professionalism. They'd be all around the neighborhood, villages, and other scouting events, and they were greatly appreciated. Joe gave back to other scouts as well. I worked with him on a fingerprinting merit badge, helping scouts learn about skills and fingerprinting, crime prevention, and crime analysis, and hopefully developing somebody's interest into a career. I'd like to thank Joe for his dedication to Explorer Post 300, and look forward to many more years of it to come. And God bless Joe and his family. Thank you.
And I would like everybody in the audience to give a nice round of applause for a group that Joe spent a lot of time with, and the Explorer and all his work that he did with them, because this is the next generation of heroes that will help us in the future. So please give a big hand. Now I would like to invite Denny Camps from the American Legion to please come up and say a couple words.
Everybody in uniform, attention. Hand salute. 2. I'm here on behalf of the American Legion Post 703 here in Fox Lake, where Joe is a member. He's a member of the Legion, member of the SAL, the Sons of American Legion. He was also a member of the Legion Riders. At ease, by the way. I will tell you that Joe was a spark plug over there. Needed something done, he got it done. Mel, I can only imagine. On behalf of Post 703, our condolences, and if there's anything we can do, please knock our door down. We will be pledging some money to this event. I don't know what yet, but we will be pledging some money. I can guarantee that. To everyone out there who puts their life on the line every day, you are respected. There's nobody better than you. And to have this happen in our backyard is unacceptable. Absolutely ridiculous. Everyone, open your eyes. Watch what's around you, what's going on. Everybody has to help someplace. That's just the deal. On the behalf of the American Legion Post 703, Mel? Thank you.
I would like to now invite Bonnie Carter from the Lake County Board to come up and say a few words.
Mel, boys, you can't see what we can see up here, but as far back as you can see, there are thousands of people here for you. They're here because they want to show their love and their support, and for your sacrifice. The last couple of days, we've all been talking about Joe. We've all been sharing stories and laughter with each other, remembering quirky things about him. We've heard some of the things tonight, and I always think that that is a very important part of healing. I think it's also part of keeping Joe close to us and keeping him alive. Two things that I want to share about Joe is, one is his smile. When you saw Joe smile, it lit up a room. You couldn't help but have it melt your heart. And it was contagious. It made you smile awesome. The other thing was his handshake. I would be in a place with him, think I was in control of a situation. I would shake his hand and realize I was not in control. Joe was in command. He had that way about you, and when you were with him, you knew you were safe. Joe was the best of the best. He was strong, he was love, he was our hero. And now, he is our guardian angel. We will miss you, Joe, and may you continue to shine light upon your family. God bless you.
And now the Chief of Police, Mike Behan. Retired Chief of Police.
Since Friday. Only 2 days. Let's talk about Joe. Okay. I started in 1982. Joe came in 85. We fought all the way up. I made sergeant. He made sergeant. I made commander. He made commander. I made lieutenant. He made lieutenant. I made chief. He didn't listen to me. Joe would go on a weekend. He would say, I'm going to do a Tough Mudder on Friday night. Saturday night, I got another one. Sunday, I got another one. We'd see him on Monday morning. Okay, this is for everybody who knows Joe. How we doing? That's Joe. He'd come in and tell me, you know, I ran 7 miles, went through the mud. I came in 4th of this group of 60. I came in 2nd of this group of 40. Oh, yeah. You want to go out and have a cigarette? Okay, let's go. Joe defied the odds. He loved the Tough Mudders. Very talented man. He was actually a better cop than I was. I remember when we were younger years, we'd go up and I said, well, this guy did it. This is the guy. Mike, he's lying to you. Okay, all right. Joe was my partner for 30 years. He was a great guy and I love him. I love Mel and the boys too. And we'll always be there for him. I kept it light, but at this time, Joe and I and Dee wrote poems when Chief Ed Garrettson died. And then we wrote another poem when Chief James Bush had passed. He promised that he would do a poem at mine, and I would have to do at his. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to try to get through it. A fallen hero, my friend in blue, strong and brave, his heart ever true. He vowed to protect no matter the pain, men, women, and children in sunshine and rain. His badge was more than a shining pin. It was honesty, sacrifice, going within. He gave of his time, his love, and his life, adored by his children and his wife. A husband, a father, he answered the call. To serve and protect, he lived by the law. Joe's time on the street came to an end. Now he was leading his men from within. As lieutenant, upon his officers impressed the importance of them giving their best. A soldier and a policeman, he knew what it could cost. Tonight, a piece of America we have lost. As his life slipped away, an angel appeared. Your time here is over. You served many years. It's time to come home. We have need of you. You won't be forgotten, GI. You're a man in blue. I love you, Joe.
So we're going to take a tiny pause here, and while we do that, I would like everybody in the audience to turn around next to them. And if there's an officer, a fireman, armed forces, I want you to shake their hand and introduce yourself to them. Because this is about what community is. Introducing yourself to the people that protect you. Never be afraid to talk to them. Never be afraid to be part of their lives, because they're here protecting you every day. So please take just 30 seconds and shake the hands of the people that save your lives every day. So Joe's wife Mel would like to come up on stage to personally thank each and every one of you for coming here to honor Joe's life and what he did for Fox Lake.
I know, I'm short. Recap you. I want to start off by expressing my deepest gratitude to my tried and true, my blood and my blue. The very presence of all of you here, as well as all the support and prayers from all over the nation, are truly appreciated by me and my family. We all lost somebody yesterday. A husband, a father, a son, a brother, a mentor, a leader, a role model, and a friend, and of course, our brother in blue. He was the most wonderful, caring, and loving father to our boys. My world got a little bit smaller with his passing. He will truly be missed by all of us. Thank you, everybody.
I would like to introduce Mike Johnson to give a closing prayer.
I spent the last day or so I spent the last day or so trying to look and learn more about Joe. I mean, I heard a lot of things from a lot of different people. My granddaughter heard about him. Sorry. Okay. My granddaughter heard about him passing, and she sat and cried. She's 11 years old. I was supposed to say a few more things, but I kind of got set aside because Reverend Kaufman's is here. So anyways, one of the things I wanted to talk about was, the time that Reverend Kaufman talked about. There's a time for everything in our lives. But now I think it's a time to look and to think about, you know, what Joe meant to each and every single person. You know, to think about, what would Joe say? You know, all these people, if every single person did one good thing, it would change Fox Lake. And there's no one person that could ever replace Joe. From what I've heard, he should be put up for sainthood. Maybe somebody can arrange that. But anyways, he was just the greatest person in the world. But Joe left us a legacy. Joe's going to be missed by his wife. He loved his wife. He loved his kids. He loved his work. He loved the community. He's going to be missed by the explorers. From what I've heard, he's dedicated his life to you guys. Now it's time that we basically turn things around and do what he would like us to do. You know, I think if Fox Lake could set a goal, let's do what Joe did. You know what? My granddaughter, when she talked about Joe, her explanation was, he was a nice guy. You know, you don't always hear that, okay? Well, all police officers, but he was the nice guy. He was always there. He talked to her.
All right, guys, we're going to step away from this for a moment. We're having live images come in from Colorado. I'm going to go ahead and take you there now.
1,000 people come down my street for trick or treat, but you know what?
Here are these live images. A military Black Hawk helicopter has crashed in Douglas County in Colorado. We know that the copter went down. Officials are now looking for it. And I believe these are the aerials. I believe that they may be zooming in on that area specifically, but don't know a lot of information right now, what caused the helicopter to go down or how many people, if any, were injured. Again, this is a developing story, and we're just getting these images in now from Colorado.
Sorry for that helicopter noise. I'm hearing it in my ear, so I'm gonna find it and lower it so you don't have to hear it in yours. There you go. We don't know much on this subject, but we do know that there is a Black Hawk down. A military Black Hawk helicopter crashed in Douglas County, and that is what we are currently looking at. Officials with Douglas County Dispatch originally did not believe this was a Black Hawk helicopter, but Fort Carson confirmed that this was a Fort Carson Black Hawk. Fort Carson officials said the helicopter suffered a hard landing and could not confirm a location. Crews aboard Skyfox said the crash was about 5 miles southeast of Devil's Head. There is no information as to what caused the helicopter to go down and how many people, if any, were injured. And obviously this is a developing story that we are going to continue to give you while giving you these Skyfox visuals up to date. Once we had our first kid, Nora, we thought about sensitive little baby skin, and someone recommended All Free Clear to us, so we picked it up and tried it out, and it worked well. It's affordable. Nora is a really girly girl. She loves reading. She loves dress up. Julius is a ball of energy. He loves getting messy. Well, there are so many detergent options available, but All Free Clear cleans well. It gets the job done.
The innocence is the important thing, and when you light that candle, try and figure out a way to bring that innocence back. Become a part of your community. Be the new light, the new Joe. And think about one thing you could do every day to bring that innocence back. Everybody, please light their candles.
I do smoke, that's why I'm like, I know I got one in here somewhere. Push here. Bailey, did you light yours?
Thank you all for coming and honoring Joe tonight. The family wishes to extend their thanks. And remember Joe in your prayers. Thank you all for coming.
Everybody raise their candles. And let's do one Go Joe for Joe. Go Joe. Go Joe. Go Joe. Go Joe.
Go Joe! Go Joe! Go Joe! Go Joe!
Go Joe! Go Joe! Go Joe! Go Joe! Go Joe! Go Joe!
And now Grant High School will perform Amazing Grace.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
So this is the end of the ceremony, but we can stay and talk about Joe. We have water and pop and Gatorade. Please, you don't have to leave. You can stay and continue to honor Joe's life, honor Joe's family, for not only the sacrifice they gave, but the sacrifice he gave. So let's give one love to Joe.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, man.
Looks like we've lost our feed out of Fox Lake. I apologize. I can't control that though. Sad vigil for G.I. Joe, the slain officer, yesterday. We got to see, kind of meet his wife, his children, and it's heartbreaking. I am just now returning. The last I saw of you is at 12:30. I did the 12:30 to 1:30 stint. While we were doing that, there was a car chase, a high-speed car chase out of California, and the suspect jumped in a hole. And I'd like to see if we can get an update on that, so if you'll just bear with me. Let's see if I can find it. Oh no, that happened on June 25th. Oh, well, apparently this jumping in hole things after car chases is a thing that people do. So it's actually quite terrifying if you look at the amount of car chases that happen when you just put in California car chase and then you hit news in your Google search. It's quite frightening. Please stop stealing cars and then assuming you're going to get away with it. That's my tip of the day. But I'm not saying actually what man hit by car, wrong way ends in foot chase. Wrong way car chase ends with foot chase. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing an update. That's unfortunate. Oh. Well, let's go ahead and finish out these last few minutes of Carrie, and I'll see what else I can pull for you before the 5. I see Carrie, Lake, and Troy Hayden gearing up for our 5 p.m. broadcast. We've got some great stories for you today, actually. And I see Troy Hayden. It looks like he's going to Periscope or Facebook prior to going live. There he is. Maybe I can pull that in. He's yawning, but he is excited to do the 5. Where is that live? Let's see if that's on his Facebook or if it's on his Periscope. Look, I'll show you him actually. He's doing this tour right now. Where did he go? He's going to the right there in the corner. I'm going to right now try to find wherever Troy's going live and show that to you. Maybe it's on his Twitter page. You don't want to yell at him while he's in the middle of recording because that's rude. No, maybe it's on his Facebook. Oh, there he is. There's Troy.
But most economists say this is not like the financial crisis of 2008. We are not heading into a recession. A correction or a pullback is not a reason for investors to panic. When you have a long period of time when stocks keep going up, a bull market,
got about 30 people tuning in, checking out your technique.
Will correct at some point.
There we go.
It can
Guys
be
putting on makeup, all is very
correction,
interesting. I got a haircut today, so it's kind of funky, so I'm just kind of spiked it up a little bit. What's the longest you've ever had your hair? You ever really let it grow out? Oh, it looks
The longest I've had my hair?
Yeah.
Oh, back in the day, I lived in San Diego when I was a kid, and I kind of had like a mini mullet. Back
Oh, man. Pictures.
No, nobody wants to see that, trust me. Okay, so I'm going to grab my jacket. I hang my jacket over here. And, you know, like I said, the vast majority of the preparation for this show is done. I get in at 1:30 in the afternoon. We start right away with an editorial meeting. We talk about all the stories. And I feel like I have a grasp of the newscast. And we do have some interesting stories. Come over to my desk here real quick.
If you've got questions on Facebook, go ahead and type them in.
official desk. TV news, there aren't any offices really, and that's good because everybody can talk and get everything together. Everybody can talk and see over the top. Carrie sits over here, John Hook sits right here. So our lead story tonight is it's called Sierra Linda Incident, and basically what happened was a student was Snapchatting that he was going to shoot up the school, and somebody in Colorado saw the Snapchat and alerted the school, and that may have reverted the shooting. So that's interesting. We've got Steve Kraft working that story. Another story I think is interesting is right down here downtown there's an American Legion post on Van Buren and 7th Avenue, and if you've ever driven down here to go to a Suns game or something, they have this massive American flag. You can't miss it. It flies on this huge flagpole. Well, we had that big storm on Monday night, and it just literally ripped the flag to shreds. It was like $1,500 to get one of these new flags because it's so big, and so they're trying to raise money.
And what they're seeing there right there, that's the script. That's what will be in the teleprompter later, right?
Yeah, so like right here, this is my read. So it's my name and then at storyteller, that's a position inside in the studio. So, and it's coming out of another weather story, that's why it's kind of abrupt. But Tuesday morning, Linda Williams tweeted this photo, and we're going to have the picture up there of the huge flag outside the American Legion building on 7th Avenue in Van Buren. The flag just torn to shreds. And then Linda's going to be live and give us her story. There's one more I wanted to tell you about here on the sword burglary. So a guy comes home and finds burglars in his house,
right, and
grabs a samurai sword and holds the burglar at bay with the samurai sword until police can come and get him. So does that make him an unofficial samurai?
I guess so at that point.
So that's another good story, and Jessica Flores is on that. So I take my earpiece. This is what we call an IFB, and I have no idea what that stands for, but basically it's the piece that goes in my ear. It gets hidden. The producer talks to us here. This is also how we hear the reporters.
Makes you look like a Secret Service agent.
Yes, exactly. You see these with them. So I put this on. I get my jacket on. In the old days, not so long ago, but we used to have a bunch of paper scripts. And you'd always see the news anchors hold their scripts,
right,
you know, the paper scripts. But now, we have little iPad things. This is mine. So I fire this up, all my scripts will be on here. So this is the assignment desk. Producers.
Eric Corrales, photographer.
Stephen Dave looks at Navanon. And I always tell people, I feel like this is really my office. This is where we do most of our work. So this is the studio. And we're counting down, so we've got about 2 minutes until we do our first update. It's live, and they just turned on sound. So I'm going to say goodbye. If you have questions about any of this stuff, hit me up. When I'm done doing the newscast, we're on 5 and 6. I will go and look at all these, and I'll talk to you guys on Facebook. So thanks for joining.
Could you use
Little choppy. But that was fun. It was fun seeing Troy. Gave you a tour of the newsroom. He gave you a tour of the makeup room, our green room. It's not only the makeup room, but it's where our guests sit and wait for us to go on. And you saw him kind of give you a brief breakdown of how the script works and what he's prepping for. He gave you our lead story. I was kind of surprised there, because if there is if the competition is working, they could snipe our lead stories. So that kind of surprised me, but he gave you kind of a breakdown of what his day's like. He showed you him putting his IFB in and heading out onto our beautifully lit set, and oh, he's back. What's he doing? I was going to show you, but he's running right back into the studio. So that was fun. And Jeff's about to return the iPad to me, so give me a minute. We have to continuously keep it charged because it dies so quickly. But that was fun to see Troy. So, love the comments. Thank you to everybody for your comments, your sweet comments. But yeah, no, that's this. John Hook just did an amazing video too on Facebook, and I'm sure I've shown it to you before, but I'm about to show it to you again. Oh wow, he did a light. Oh whoa. I'm going to show you that right now. This is some of his weather footage. This is when we had those ridiculous monsoon storms the other night. Here's another one. Hook was on it on his social media game. This is in our parking garage actually, and that's quite frightening. And that's like nice parking. Here is Hook's video that I really loved. Let's see here. I thought that this was interesting.
Think writing it would really. Hey guys, I wanted to post this on Facebook because I don't think writing it would really reflect how I feel about this. I want to be sincere about this question. I want to know if you are Latino or Hispanic and live here and are legal here. You were born here, your family's from here, many generations here, whatever the story. I want to know how you feel about illegal immigration. Because people have said and told me that if they are here legally, they have found this whole issue to be a real burden for them. And I want to know if that's true or not. So let me know what you think. I can't wait to hear. Thanks.
And he had so many reactions to that. Over 108 shares on that video. I might go in there and help him change that screen grab though. But he likes those live. This is that funny joke about Starbucks. Starbucks at 7 o'clock. He thought it was a full moon. Walked outside. It was a full moon. He really does like these videos though. Where's his other video? I thought he made another one. Maybe he took it down. Don't be shy. Oh, this is cool. I haven't seen this one yet. Let's see.
I'm here and we'll just keep this pretty informal. Hey guys, I'm here and we'll just keep this pretty informal. I'm gonna try to learn how to do this. All right, and we'd love to hear your questions on this. This is Robert Schwartz. He is a noted defense attorney in town.
Hello.
And this is Marlene Pontrelli. And they have been at this collectively for many, many years about divorce. Who wants to take the first question about Ashley Madison?
I'd be happy to.
What does it mean, Robert, with this kind of breach? Will it play into divorce proceedings down the line, do you believe?
I think if it turns out that somebody had a mistress or a woman had a boyfriend and they were spending money on them, it will definitely play into the divorce case in Arizona. I mean, because it's something we'll look into, and it's going to be a financial issue of how much money was spent and how can we recoup some of that money for the outspouse.
Before you go to the question, let me go ahead and turn this
Okay.
around.
Hey, guys.
Because you're going to want to be able to see the questions. So I would stay like that, and then you can just get that to
Okay.
turn the camera around.
Great.
And that way you'll be able to see what's going on.
Okay, Marlene, we're in a whole new world here, aren't we, with this kind of stuff?
We are. You know, we are seeing social media really affect marriages in a number of ways, not only in terms of finding out that your spouse may be cheating on you, but it's also a tool that's right there in your bedroom or your office to be able to meet people and utilizing that tool. And we see that's much different than what occurred 20, 30 years ago.
Robert, if somebody was on Ashley Madison, it isn't anything that can be used in Arizona, for instance, for damages or trying to tip the scales one way or the other, because we're a no-fault state, right?
Yeah, basically, like I said before, it could just relate to potentially financial issues, or depending on what they were doing, how reckless they were, it could spill over into a custody issue.
So it hasn't hit your page yet for some reason. So we've seen this a couple times, and you're not showing any viewers right here.
Yes, I know.
So
Usually
I don't know
there's
if you wanna
viewers. Okay.
Try it again.
Interesting. Yeah, actually, Madison not going anywhere in the headlines. I also was reading today that Josh Duggar, admitted Ashley Madison user, is currently missing from sex rehab. So that's a fun headline. We are gearing up for our 5 o'clock broadcast. You can see right now Andrew has been. That's him prepping for his live shot. And you should turn on Channel 10 right now if you're local. If you're not local, you can head on over to fox10phoenix.com and watch our live television news broadcast, our live local television news broadcast. I see Troy Hayden and Carrie Lake on the screen right now talking about the school threat posted on Snapchat. You can download our app. It's probably the best way to stream our videos. It's free at fox10phoenix.com. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. We got a lot of exciting stories to talk to you about tonight. My show 6:30 to 9, so I'm gearing up for the 6:30 to 9 broadcast this evening. I've got some fun topics, including a website that helps you fake pregnancy. Really, it actually exists. I don't know why. And then a kid that changed his parents' cell phones to when they type no, it says HE double hockey sticks, yes. So that's going to be funny. I'm going to talk to some of the anchors about that, get their opinion. A lot of them are parents, so I'm sure that they will have a lot to say about that. But it is 5 o'clock, so I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon and your morning with us. Come back at 6:30. 6:30 tonight is going to be fun, I think. I hope. I think it'll be fun. And we will see you later. Sammy will see you tomorrow. I will see you later. Just no. Sammy walking out the door. All right, I will see you 6:30 to 9 tonight. Bring your fun, bring your commentary, bring your giggles.